Welcome to this lesson on More, ADDIE, and RAD. In this lesson, we'll take a closer look at RAD, Rapid Application Development. Then we'll revisit ADDIE and see how it can work effectively for e-learning design. Rapid Application Development, which is often called rapid prototyping, is borrowed from software design. In one form of RAD called Agile Development, a software release consists of multiple iterations called sprint cycles. The duration of a sprint cycle is 30 days. The number of sprints in a release may vary, but it is common to have 3 sprints in a software release. At the end of a release, working software is deployed on a production server. At the end of a sprint cycle, working functionality is demonstrated to the client. University Extension offers a course on Agile that may be of interest to you. RAD models like these have a reputation for being both faster and more efficient than ADDIE. They are also being explored more and more as a basis for e-learning design. Here's how a rapid application design model might look. Some e-learning environments today use a process similar to this. It can also be viewed as an adaptation of the ADDIE model that incorporates rapid prototyping, but notice the built-in iterations. Proponents of RAD suggest that through an iterative process, problems can be caught early while they are still easy to fix. This approach appears in many design-related domains like software design, architecture, transportation planning, and product development. In this model, the understanding of a problem is considered incomplete without creating and evaluating a prototype, regardless of how much analysis might have happened up front. Translating this to instructional design, upfront analysis might not be enough to make someone confident in the selection of an instructional model. Note in the diagram how it's possible to revisit each development step multiple times when developing a prototype. Michael Allen is a champion of the RAD process for e-learning. He believes that no e-learning application is perfect, that functional prototypes are better than traditional storyboards and design specs, and that quick and dirty is beautiful. He uses rapid prototyping, or what he calls successive approximations, in a 3-iteration cycle as illustrated. Note where the review cycles occur and that clients and the learners are included in them. How many of us include the learner in our solutions? A functional prototype is an interactive mock-up of the final product with liberal annotation. In early versions, drawings and sketches may take the place of graphics, video or audio, but the basic functionality of the e-learning module is included so that it can be observed. Lots of tools can be used to create a functional prototype. I would recommend using PowerPoint or other presentation tool to develop either a storyboard or a functional prototype. Other authoring tools that allow very rapid prototyping are fine too. The idea is to get to an operational model as quickly as possible, and then with each iteration in the design process to add or modify your functional prototype, improving it as you go. For more elaboration of this process, I would consult with Michael Allen's Guide to E-Learning, which is a book he wrote in 2003. You can find this book on Amazon. It is not part of our resources, but I did want you to know about it. It's also possible to use the ADDIE steps in an iterative way. The use of functional prototypes and an iterative cycle enable subject matter experts and others on the design team to fully grasp the nature of the envisioned interactions and spot errors in order to prevent them from becoming part of the final e-learning design. Quick iterations allow exploration of multiple ideas. Successive approximations and alternative designs need to be developed with just enough functionality for everyone, including the learners, to understand and evaluate the proposed approaches. Note that this prototyping approach is not the linear ADDIE, which originally worked for perfection at each point and intended to perform each phase of the process only once. Rather, this version is iterative. allowing a revisit of each phase multiple times. Although the tools landscape is changing daily, today's very accessible rapid development tools, which you may be familiar with, include PowerPoint, Articulate, Captivate, Breeze, Camtasia, and some others. In contrast, the more robust tools that have a higher learning curve include Authorware, Toolbook, Flash, Dreamweaver, and others. This course doesn't focus on your tools for creation, but once you have a good process in place, your tools would follow, and you would need to determine what those tools would be. In addition, as a follow-up to tools, you should consider the skills needed to produce e-learning. Skills such as media production, graphics design, user interface design, and subject matter expertise. You might also add facilitation skills if you're developing synchronous learning. No matter what process you use, you will have to determine if you or others in your workplace have the requisite skills, and if necessary, how to set about developing those skills. The skills needed to produce e-learning translate into this list of team members. The list depicts an ideal situation. Each e-learning shop, of course, is different. Some environments have dedicated teams devoted to these e-learning tasks, while others have one or two individuals who act as sort of jack of all trades doing multiple tasks. Which environment is yours? Now let's revisit ADDIE. Here's a model you might find particularly useful, ADDIE as specifically applied to e-learning. The additional e-learning tasks are mapped to the stages of the ADDIE process. The source again here is Ruth Clark. Note that with e-learning, the design phase in this diagram at the top of the development phase, actually as it's showing, typically concludes with the development of detailed design scripts, storyboards, or prototypes. This is a very practical model you might find particularly useful, a workflow diagram depicting how e-learning can actually be produced. The source, again, is Ruth Clark. Note that in this view, any necessary iterations are built into the workflow. Client review and approvals dictate where the iterations occur. This workflow is adaptable to either a corporate or independent consultant environment. This model is posted in the resources for this week. So, which process should you use? Mark Rosenberg, a well-known thought leader in e-learning, challenges us to ask some different questions in his article, Is ISD Dead? You'll have an opportunity to read it and think about your own position. It's in the resources for this week. Ultimately, your decision depends on a lot of factors. What kind of e-learning you want to create, your skill set, your client expectations, and the available technologies. There is no one right process, but you should definitely use a methodology and adapt it to make it work for you. In this lesson, we've taken a closer look at RAD, Rapid Application Development, and revisited ADDIE to see how it can work specifically with e-learning design. As a follow-up, now go to the course shell in Moodle and do the items listed in this week's activities, Week 2. Also, look under Resources for articles and links that provide more in-depth information about this week's topics. Look in the discussion forum for this week's questions. Please post to the discussions by offering your response to the questions and also your response to your fellow classmates' posts.